Hello.
Bonjour.
Swiki.
Guten Tag.
Marhaban.
Namaste. Breaking news. We're just receiving reports that ThyGap podcast has already spread to 15 countries across the globe. More from our special correspondent out in the field.
Thank you, news correspondent. Insiders suggest that they have already greeted their followers in 5 of these countries. Scam the banks. Everyone wondering, how far will this go? Me with my camera, back to the studio.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ThyGap podcast, episode 12. My name is Bogus Noog, and with me is my co-host, 15 times worse than I am,
Being Brute.
What is up, Brood? Welcome back to the 12th episode of ThyGap. What's going on with you, my friend?
It's awesome to be back because I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin. No. Welcome back to you too, Bogus. Unfortunately, you're still here. We are on episode 12. And look at my face, the excitement.
Yeah, I keep looking at your face and I'm thinking 12 episodes down. How come we haven't broken up yet?
Yep. I
But-
think 13th is a charm.
Yeah, 13th is a charm.
I think I'm going to skip the 13th episode, by the way, guys. Because
Just for luck.
Just for luck.
Yeah,
Just for
yeah.
luck. When you're in this stage of the relationship,
Uh-huh.
you start becoming superstitious.
Yeah.
Can't avoid it.
Yeah.
Right?
And guys, Brute and I just want to say how much we appreciate your love and support all this while. And you're like an unending source that we bank on.
Absolutely.
And Brute, what do we do with banks?
Scam the banks.
That's it. That's what we do. To know more about what Brute means, if you ever wanted to venture such a dark, dangerous path, follow us on our socials, guys. On Twitter @ThyGap and _ThyGap on Instagram. And like the page, ThyGap It Is on Facebook. You know what they say, Brute? Have you ever heard of this saying?
Yeah, I did. It's amazing saying.
No, let me say the saying first. Let me just say that first.
Got it. Yeah, say it.
They say the line between good and evil
Uh-huh.
cuts right through the middle of a man's heart.
Who said this?
I don't know.
You know, I have a different saying which is related to line,
Mhm.
which is you're so far behind the line
Right?
that the line is just a dot to you.
Different context.
I know.
Different
I know.
line. Yeah. I think it's useful in different situations for sure. But what got me thinking of late, and we just got done with a heavy 2-part series on Measure of Man.
Yeah.
And every time we do a heavy episode, I feel like the next one I just want to kind of lay back and
Make it more heavy.
just no.
Okay.
No. Just,
Okay. I thought we were just escalating. Okay.
Yeah, just chill out and, on the prep and all that stuff. And we just lay back and talk.
Got it.
Got me thinking of late was social media and the kind of interactions we seem to have or we're seeing people have on social media. I know that you're not a fan as well
No, not at all.
as...
And it's not just social media. Let me be clear.
Mhm.
It's all kinds of electronic communication.
You're not a fan of the electronic communication at all.
No, not the textual one.
So you stop at
emails.
letters, the physical handwritten letters. Do you stop there?
Yeah, probably you can say. And probably calls.
Yeah, calls.
But I won't consider calls under the electronic communication. But the emails, the messages, the WhatsApps, any kind of form of textual communication.
Twitter, Facebook posts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. The whole dynamic, I just don't understand that.
Yeah. And
You can ask me why.
Why is that, Brute? Why is that?
Let's take it from the top. I'm not a big fan of electronic communication, especially the textual part.
And why is that, Brute?
Funny you ask me, because the bracket of miscommunication that happens through electronic communication.
Right.
It either exaggerates the exact meaning or it completely nullifies the exact meaning that I wanted to communicate.
Yeah.
Or I wanted to put it across.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan. No.
Yeah. Ideally, I think what all of us would have wanted is, if we get into an altercation or some kind of an argument with someone, ultimately we have a discussion about it, and then if I have the more convincing point, then you concede and you agree to my point. You say, okay, that makes sense, or I agree to your point, or we say, no, this is not done yet, and we'll agree to disagree for now.
The actual reality of a conversation, a difference of opinion, you know how it ends? People walking out of the room. That's the maximum it goes to. But on social platforms, right?
That's the most peaceful way.
That's that looks so organic also. You're just so pissed off.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the other person is someone, whoever it might be, right?
Right.
You somehow see that the best option to do is walk out from there.
Yeah.
So as to not cause further damage.
Yeah. And what I see happening online is two people get into an argument. Very quickly, it escalates to some sort of a personal joke or an abuse. And now it becomes like an ego fight between the two people as to who's going to own the
Who's the boss?
Yeah. And it's no longer about the point that they were arguing about.
And also, most of the times, there's no point to argue also. It basically might be two guys' take on something.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is my take, this is your take.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Yeah. Let's just say some corner of the internet, two people wanted to talk about something and argue.
Yeah.
Let them have at it. It's a free world. It's a free country, whatever. But then I've also noticed that if someone makes a very strong point, a very compelling point, there is no concession. There is no acceptance or acknowledgement from the other side. Rather, it is just pure silence.
Right.
They either block them because they can't come back
or
with a
get
response.
10 more people who can probably
or
write faster.
Yeah. Or find a mob.
Yeah.
But it's really going all haywire. And I really think we need a rules of engagement for social media platforms. I don't think...
Where did I hear this rules of engagement?
Could be a movie name.
Oh no, that's the topic of our episode.
Oh,
that's our episode's name. Rules of engagement.
So,
and after this declaration, we might come up with an absolutely different name to the episode.
Anything is possible.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking that it's a new thing that we are coming to terms with, this whole concept of everyone being available at all times to immediately, instantly give you feedback or their peace of mind on something. And for such a situation and the way that it's being handled now, where is it going wrong? Why has it gone wrong? And what could we possibly do to manage this madness? Could we give a method to this madness?
Yeah.
That's the question that I was thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
And
you still didn't complete, sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, so I have a few theories as to where or
correct.
why.
Oh, sorry, you still didn't complete. Got it. Yeah.
As to where or why this thing is the way it is right now.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is there's a very easy solution to this, but it's as often in real life, right? The easiest things are the toughest things to do, which is get out from social platforms. Don't entertain yourself to such madness. Don't expose yourself to such chaos.
Yeah.
If you think that you can't hold a conversation in real life, if you feel that you are a person who's kind of, who might not be ready to take 2-3 blows on your face or take a punch on your chin, when it comes to a disagreement, this is not a place for you, right?
But I think that when it comes to certain situations where you're either an entrepreneur or you are the spokesperson for an organization or whatever it is, there are points where it is unavoidable. When I was thinking of why is this really happening? Why is the situation so broken right now?
It's not a regulated platform.
One, it is not regulated, but when I mean regulation, I don't necessarily mean from the government. I mean just something that we as people agree to sign off on. Like as in we as people agree that, okay, this is the way we will conduct ourselves, or this is the way we will use social media, for example. And I'll get to that, the final example.
Okay. That's what, because
Yeah.
I am already
You're already
dozing
lost.
off.
I saw that. So when I thought about
I was like that Rohit Sharma during that interview. मुझे पता नहीं तू कौन सा क्वेश्चन पूछा है. Yeah.
So as to why, I'd like to take your attention back to the Roman days. Okay, you remember the Colosseum, where gladiator used to
Russell
engage
Crowe.
in blood sport.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe basically was unjustly being pit
Right.
against by all
kinds
these
of-
3 or 4 groups of
Right,
people. There's a
right.
lion, something's happening.
Right.
But basically the crowd, if you watch the crowd, they are enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
They're yelling in bloodlust.
Yeah.
They're excited.
Yeah.
And that kind of tells you, or it gives you a slight hint about human nature. And I want to connect this further to whenever there's an accident, and of course now there's not much traffic on the streets, but before the lockdown,
Yeah.
this was common occurrence
Back
for
in
us,
the day.
right? Back in the day.
Yeah.
Every day a bike or a car or something or the other, you'd be seeing an accident on the road,
Right.
and immediately you see a lot of people gather around just to watch.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of
Enjoy the pretty picture.
and there's a lot of other people who are slowing down their vehicles, causing a traffic jam only because they want to watch. They're not getting out of their vehicles or anything.
Yeah.
They're just slowing down.
Yeah.
And there's always just that 1 or 2 people
Who volunteer to help.
exactly who actually step forward and go beyond. Actually, they go overboard in helping you out if you are in that situation. It kind of surprises me, like, why would you take so much time out in helping me when it happened to me, right?
Yeah.
I wondered why this guy he's insisting that he walks with me to the hospital.
Yeah.
So these kind of things are very comforting, but the extreme minority also. That's good enough. But
Yeah.
then the majority is just watching.
Yeah.
And you see that, right? And this is not something that's alien, or this is not something that's new to us. It's always been a part of us throughout history.
I just want to bring in another point. Even before you talk about the Colosseum, right?
Yeah.
I want to go a little further down where public hanging was common.
Public hangings,
Right.
witches were being burnt.
Biggest crowd turners,
Yeah.
right? Biggest crowd pullers back in the day was somebody is being hanged.
Yeah.
And there's so many crazy sketches which actually make fun of that. But
I mean, if a witch does not weigh the same as a duck,
yeah,
you're gonna die.
you're gonna die. And
Yeah.
that's ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
So the question is, we don't know how many duck, whether it's a single duck or multiple
It
ducks.
was a single duck. If you watch the documentary Monty Python and the Holy Grail,
Holy Grail. Oh, yeah.
this is a scene from that.
So, I mean, I don't even know how they did that math. But anyways, like,
They explain
or
it in the movie.
for all I care,
Yeah.
the logic should be the other way around. If the witch weighs as much as a duck,
Right.
something is wrong with the witch. She's not weighing as a
She's a
normal
witch.
human. She's a witch.
Bana!
Right? So
Yeah.
if it's not weighing if she's weighing more than the duck,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then she's a normal person.
She's a
that
normal
should have
lady.
been the math. Because that way everybody is a witch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what was the math. But
Yeah.
but what I was saying was, coming to the point, that whole concept of enjoying somebody's plight,
Right.
right? Irrespective of the degree of it.
Right.
I agree to the fact that I think we always have had it with us.
We've always had it.
We've been, and also there's a psychological study also that humans as a species are sadistic in nature. One of the easiest examples they give is when you get hurt and the wound starts healing,
Right.
and when the dead skin comes, right?
Yeah.
You involuntarily like pulling off the dead skin,
Yeah.
which is technically not allowing you to heal fast,
Yeah.
right? But you, even though that little pinch that you get
Yeah.
while you're pulling off that dead skin,
And then you're
you
looking
enjoy
at it like, oh,
yeah,
is it
whoa.
getting red?
Yeah, it's getting red.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's
Am I bleeding
droplets
more?
of blood. Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah.
And also, as a kid, you used to put badges onto, like you had like the school badge.
Oh yeah.
And then you would pin it onto
Self-piercing.
yeah,
You pierce your
self-piercing and all
palm
that.
with it, yeah.
Which is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So I agree to the point. Yeah, we are absolutely sadistic in nature.
Yeah, I think in differing measures, of course, it's not like we're completely sadistic. But
We're not obviously sadistic. We're not like the extreme of sadistic, but we have sadism in our bodies or in the minds.
And for anyone who's unconvinced of this, we've even done experiments on this in our past, which showed freakish results, actually. And these results were so freakish that the first time I read about these experiments, I could never forget about them again because of what they revealed.
It just took one read
It just
to scar you. I wish like math did that to you.
I mean, math scarred me when I just opened the textbook. So then I just silently closed it again and then never again.
With equal speed
Yeah.
with which you opened it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you say to the book of math? Not today.
Not today.
Not today. So, first of all, there was an experiment called the Stanley Milgram experiment. Okay. And this was done post World War II.
Let me guess. Was this done by Stanley Milgram?
You're a genius.
Come on.
I don't know how you do it.
Throw me a bone, man.
Yeah.
So easy. I guessed it.
So, post World War, this was after the Nuremberg trials. What happened in the Nuremberg trials was they got all these Nazi generals, etc., Hitler's machine.
Right.
And they got the top brass on a historic court case.
Okay.
They were on trial for war crimes. And they asked everyone the same question. How could you bring yourself to participate? When you knew, there was loss of human life, how could you bring yourself to follow the orders?
Right.
And they were saying, a lot of them said, you know what, we don't really have anything personally against any set of people.
Right.
It's more just that we were following orders.
We're doing our job.
Yeah, we were just doing our job. We were doing what we were told to do.
Right.
That's about it.
Right.
And this was not just one guy's defense. This was a few people. They used this defense. So Stanley Milgram.
Do you think they were trained to do that on a rainy day?
I don't know. And
what are the chances that they were trained to do? Were they on a lie detection test or were they just doing it?
I don't know. I mean, for something as huge as World War II, I don't think you can even use that as an example for a rainy day because it couldn't get rainier. It couldn't get darker.
No, I'm saying say the Nazi military.
But also, the US was rolling out a red carpet for these guys. Hey, come aboard. Come to our country. Make rockets. So I'm not sure what the motivation was to say this. But ultimately, they did say it. It's on record. Okay?
Yeah.
And so Stanley Milgram, he was curious about this. And after the Nuremberg war trials, right? This concept of banality of evil came
Why
about.
do you use such big words, bogus? Why do you always have to use big words which I don't understand?
It's okay. We'll all learn.
Okay. What is benevolent?
Not benevolent. Banality.
Oh, what is banality?
Banality is like the uneventfulness or the dullness or
blandness.
The blandness.
Why couldn't you just use bland then?
No, because it doesn't. Bland is more of a food thing, That's why you can't use it.
No, vanilla is used for people. He's such a vanilla guy. What do you mean? What is your opinion about that? I call you vanilla all the time.
You think I'm fucking vanilla?
Yeah, you're vanilla, dude. Have you heard yourself anytime in our podcast? Dullest bum ever.
You have not even scratched the surface.
Which is why I call you vanilla, because you copy my phrases.
Right.
That was my phrase and you couldn't even complete it.
I didn't complete it because it's such a disgusting phrase.
It is an amazing phrase. This is going as a hashtag, the whole bloody phrase.
Right. So coming back.
Yeah.
This guy got curious.
Yeah.
And he was like, what is this whole banality of evil thing?
Yeah.
And banality of evil means that these people, they did such a horrendous thing. Supposedly, but they did such a horrendous thing. And when asked to describe the motivation behind it, the justification seemed too ordinary. Like someone just saying, I'm just doing my job. I was just following orders.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like I asked you to deliver 35 pizzas.
Right.
I asked you to push people into certain places.
Yeah.
And you did it.
Yeah. Was that all that was needed? Was it all that was needed?
That is the key question. Was it all that was needed because let's see what happens in Stanley Milgram experiment.
Right.
So out of curiosity, he wanted to get to the bottom of this tendency. And so he devised an experiment where he invited a few volunteers for money. And of course, post-war time, everyone wants money. So a few people showed up. He invited them one by one into a small room. Inside this room, there was just a table, a chair, and there was a switch on the table.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the
screen.
room. There was
I think I've read about this experiment. It's horrible.
Yeah. And just beyond the table, there's the wall.
Yeah.
And on the wall, there's a bulb, okay? So all this person can see are the switch in front of him and the bulb in front of him.
Right.
And there's a speaker to the wall. And so Stanley Milgram tells this guy, okay, listen, we are interrogating a war criminal.
Okay.
And we want him to fess up. We want him to give us some truth about what happened. And I'm going to ask him a series of questions from here. And he's going to give an answer. If I think he was being truthful, I'll signal you.
Okay.
If I think he was lying, then I'll give you a different signal.
Right.
If I give you that signal, you've got to press the button.
Got it.
And that guy was like, yeah, okay, cool, you know. And so he asked them first question. And then Stanley Milgram says, no, this guy's lying. So he, through the speaker, he hears a voice from the other room. And he tells this guy, he motions him to press the button.
Right.
This guy presses the button and immediately he hears a yell. A scream from the speaker.
Yeah.
And he's startled.
Why, dude?
He's like, what was that?
Yeah.
And then Stanley Milgram says, oh, we actually hooked him up to wires on his chair. Every time you press that button, he gets an electric shock.
Yeah.
And then that's when people are taken aback. And they're like, no, I can't do this. I'm sorry.
Right.
You know, that we have to give credit for. The first impulse.
2 times. The first 2 times, you're always like,
The first few impulses
the third time
is to say, no, I don't want any part in this.
Yeah.
I want to leave. And then Stanley Milgram says, you don't have to worry. You know, everything, this is a government managed interrogation. I'm the sole authority.
Right.
If anything happens to that guy, consequences only for me, nothing for you as a volunteer. So this is my authority. I'm giving you the go ahead.
Right.
You go ahead. Don't worry. This is where it turns. And so then the people...
They keep pressing it no matter what the answer is it?
They keep pressing it.
Oh my
again and again.
Lord.
The screams get louder, and to a point where it starts to sound blood-curdling. I
am doubting your intentions with this, dude. Yeah.
And then they get scared. They're like, no, I think there's something really happening. He's like, no, don't worry. You know, it's like, I'm the authority. They continue pressing the button.
This is...
So...
Why are we even doing this? Like, we are supposed to be a fun-loving, entertaining comedy podcast.
This is supposed to be a comedy podcast.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a bloody comedy podcast. You just told the most gory story. I can't even see how Stanley, who is this? Stanley Kubrick? Like, who the...
No.
Who the hell is this guy?
Stanley Milgram.
Stanley Milgram. What is the difference between Stanley Milgram and Hitler? I don't see any. Only thing is Stanley Milgram conducted this in a controlled environment. Please tell me that there was actually no guy on the other side being electrified.
Actually, there was a guy.
Oh, sweet Lord. This only gets worse.
But that guy was an actor like you.
Oh, okay. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
There's nobody who's getting electrified.
No,
right?
not really.
Okay. Got it.
So the actual experiment was on the other side.
Hitler is a completely different ballgame altogether. Then Stanley Milgram, if you're still alive, he's a good guy.
No, he's not alive anyways.
Okay.
So
good that you died. Like, stop doing this to people. Like, even mental image of it is very scary. No wonder nobody forgets this after one read.
Yeah. And the guy on the other side was just an actor who was sitting on a chair with a mic in front of him.
Yeah.
And there was a bulb on his side.
Yeah.
So every time the button was pressed, the bulb went off and he screams.
Right.
And he keeps escalating
his screams. Doesn't know who is there on the other side?
He knows about the experiment.
Oh, okay. He knows.
He's participating.
Very good.
Because actors have to be told their motivation.
Yeah, they have to get into the character.
Oh my.
As a professional actor myself, who's been in like 3 plays and got rejected out of 7, I know what it takes to be an actor. You know, my emotions are always right on top.
So this was the experiment, and what it revealed was the lengths that people will go to as long as you relieve them of the consequence.
You know what is the final data I want to know?
Yeah.
How many people were smiling while pressing that switch? You know,
That is key.
that is the key. The moment you shoot that guy right there,
Absolutely.
the moment there's a guy who says no the first 2 times and
Yeah.
says, okay, if it's on you,
Yeah.
and starts smiling.
Yeah.
More than smiling, start smirking.
There should be an exit door on the other side of the room.
Yeah.
Just take him out the back and just
and then
put
we
him
don't
out,
see him
put him out of his misery.
He's like, he's lost in the dark episode.
Oh God. There's no
That is-
redemption.
there's there's no place for such people. You can't smirk.
Yeah.
I mean, grinning, smirking, all these things are scary, dude. And this
Yeah.
is what is the thing, you know. I mean, I know I'm going back to the point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are all emotions which convey a certain amount of, you know, intent
Yeah.
in a conversation,
Yeah.
right?
Nuance.
Nuances. They are all like the nitty-gritties which
True.
you can't, they are intangibles.
True.
You know, when somebody says a very bad news about someone, but he's saying it while smiling to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It either means that this guy is very happy that something bad has happened to him,
Yeah.
or it says that you both are, he's expecting you are also on the same board, something like that, right?
Yeah.
You get the bigger picture.
It's like that Joaquin Phoenix in Joker. Like
Exactly,
when he starts laughing
right?
abruptly.
And people will get it.
Yeah.
With social platforms, my problem is that, first of all, I hate the smileys. Anybody who use smileys in their messages, go die. Okay, I don't care about you because it conveys nothing.
Except for the sunglasses one. That's
That thing should
Yeah.
get a Nobel Peace Prize.
That's
like
it.
whoever created that one smiley, right?
Yeah.
But that's a minority, right?
Right.
Like any other real time scenario, the minorities are always the good ones.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, this is my problem. Like, imagine you tell something and then put a smiley of a smirk, and I see that smirk as a grin. Right? The whole context of the message changes for me, right?
Out the window.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, fine. Now, why is he grinning? Like, what is his intent? I start reading it with the lines.
Yeah.
I start, like, you know, assuming things.
Yeah.
And then my response obviously will be different because of what I understood.
Yeah.
That guy thinks that he communicated brilliantly to me.
Right.
According to him, it's like as smooth as butter.
I killed it.
I killed it.
Yeah,
right?
he'll screenshot that
Yeah,
shit.
he'll like frame that shit
Yeah.
and all. And you're like, dude, you know, why the hell? I was so nice to you.
Are you enjoying
Yeah,
my
like-
pain? Yeah.
Like, do you want me to cry?
Yeah.
Do you want me to cry, you bastard? So I get it. Like, this is the point. I wanted to see if
Right.
I am Stanley
Milgram.
I'm not just looking at people doing the act. I also would want to see
Yeah.
if this guy is smiling. Like, if this person is smiling, I will get out of the room as Stanley Milberg.
Yeah.
Take the actor
Yeah.
along with me and just allow that guy to keep pressing the bloody button, right?
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, dude, from whatever I can make out of it, it's a very obvious thing for me. The moment there is no accountability on you,
Yeah.
right? And you can see it on day-to-day terms,
Yeah.
right? For example, there was a roommate of mine, and I just told him, dude, it's okay, you know, even if you don't clean the dishes or whatever, you know, just no scene. I'll come and do it, right? I might take some time, but I'll come and do it. And when I came back, he just not only did the dishes,
Okay.
very conveniently he avoided doing the dishes,
Okay.
but he put more dishes on things, right? So he piled up more dishes in the
Wonderful.
assumption that, okay, I don't have to fucking do it.
Right.
How does it matter to me? And it started, the whole house was stinking of, you know, the leftover foods,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
flies everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, you stay here too. Like, doesn't this bother you? I mean, I'm not like an OCD guy.
Exactly.
But when the shit hits the ceiling,
Personal standard.
you gotta like, at some point, you gotta push the panic button, right?
Yeah.
And say like, okay, fine, you know what? Nobody's around. Let me get my hands dirty. Get this place sorted.
Right.
It's a very, very menial example.
Yeah.
But you see that in different degrees
Yeah.
in people when the accountability is removed out of them, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. It looks menial because it is a menial example.
Yeah.
And the problem is for anyone who thinks, oh, this is just some far off thing. No. That smiley neighbor who you greet every day, you have no idea how he
He's
would
the one
behave.
who's throwing garbage in your backyard when you are asleep.
You have no idea how he would behave when shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
That is when
He's the
people
first one to run.
That is when people are truly tested.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And there was another experiment performed in more recent years. And when I say recent, I don't know exactly, but Stanford University ran a similar experiment. It's along the same lines. The general gist of it was they chose, I'm not getting the specifics right, but just example wise, they chose like 20 students,
Okay.
one side, 20 students another side.
Uh-huh.
One hostel block,
Right.
they emptied out, or a wing they emptied out, and they said 20 students on this side are going to be acting as jailers. 20 students on the other side are going to be acting as prisoners. We're going to treat this wing that we've locked off as a jail cell. It's going to be a prison now. This is all imaginary. We are just playing the fool. We are acting.
Right.
Well established. And the students are also like, yeah, it's a good psychological experiment. Thumbs
We are
up,
Stanford guys.
Yeah,
we are the
we-
highest IQs.
yeah.
We can do anything.
Yeah.
Turns out your EQs are low.
And then what they did was they placed cameras all across
Right.
the place, all over the place, jail cells, the path where the jailers have to walk, all that stuff. And they locked them in. That's it. No outside contact for about a period of time. I don't know how much, like 20 days, 25 days, whatever. It
Might be 40 days because that's how long it takes to like.
Maybe.
Right.
It hardly took any time for the social fabric to degenerate. Basically, whoever the prisoners were, right?
Right.
They are Stanford students. Everyone knows.
These are the
They
cream
know.
crop.
Yeah, they know.
How do you pronounce it in French? Like crème crop or
Creme de la creme.
crème de la crème.
So these guys, they know that they are Stanford students. The jailers are Stanford students. They're college mates, classmates
Yeah.
even. But as soon as the whole situation started, it went to Big Boss first. Like it went up to Big Boss levels where confrontations, conflicts between jailers and prisoners.
Yeah.
Jailers kind of supporting each other
Yeah.
against prisoners. Prisoners supporting each other against jailers.
Yeah.
The prisoners getting too agitated
Right.
in their behavior.
Right.
Like they want to rebel against the authority of the jailers.
Yeah.
And the jailers are getting more and more dictatorial. And they're getting more and more
Demanding.
militant.
Yeah.
They actually got down to physically punishing them, getting into the cells and physically punishing them and all that stuff. So it really degenerated.
Once again, how many of those jailers were smiling
I mean-
when they were punishing these guys?
Bro, as an actor, can you imagine in Stanford they found 40 method actors all at once? Like,
All of them would have come out of the experiment. I'm in the wrong profession. Like, I
Yeah.
don't need math.
Yeah.
I don't need science.
I'm Al Pacino.
Yeah,
I'm Robert De Niro.
Robert De
here.
Niro.
Yeah.
I'm like Daniel
Method acting.
Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis this shit, yeah.
Yeah, all these days. How I was fooling myself.
So it went to that ridiculous extent till where the authorities had to step in and probably conclude the experiment. Again, I don't remember the specifics, but that's not the main takeaway. The main takeaway is observe the similarities between the Stanley Milgram experiment, guys, and the Stanford prison experiments.
Right.
What is that revealing about the human character when it is tested? What comes out?
That
Doodh
they're all
ka doodh,
method actors.
Pani ka pani. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also another, one of the most famous pieces of literature ever, Crime and Punishment by
Dostoevsky. Fyodor
Fyodor
Dostoevsky.
Dostoevsky, who was a Russian author, a personal favorite of both Brute and myself.
He's probably also, I just want to put in a word because I'm a huge fan of
Go ahead.
Fyodor.
Go ahead.
So, Fyodor Dostoevsky has an amazing personal life in himself where I think he had a perfect sinusoidal wave of the highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
And he was coined as one of the very few literature writers or authors,
Right.
who are borderline philosophical in a very realistic sense. He was on the platform of Leo Tolstoy.
I can't disagree with that. Yeah.
Kafka. And funny thing, they all come from Europe predominantly.
Russia.
Russia. Kafka is not Russian. He's
Kafka
German.
is
German.
German?
Yeah, he's a German author.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Dostoevsky.
Dostoevsky people who have not read him, I'm sure you've heard about him, and if you have not even heard about him, don't even have to read his books, right? Because I feel you need to graduate to his books as a reader. You just can't just go straight into pick up Crime and Punishment or The Idiot or whatever and start reading and say like, oh, I'll get it.
Right.
So for them, you guys just go to Wikipedia, whatever source you can. And if you want to have like a read about him, you read what all he went through.
But the one instance in Dostoevsky's life that turned his life around,
Yeah.
that is one thing I can never forget again. Just the intent to make someone go through such an experience, which is, he was in the gulag, right?
Right.
In the Siberian prison.
Right.
And they were telling him that you're going to be executed soon.
Yeah.
So they were going on saying, this is the date. The date is
Right.
fixed. You're going to be executed.
Right.
On the day of the execution, he has his last meal.
Right.
They take him out to a post. The time to it, it's basically a shooting gallery.
Right.
So they blindfold him. And that's it. Imagine what goes through a man's mind.
It's like it's the end.
It's blank, right? It's like it's the end.
Right.
That's
or we
it.
don't know what actually happens technically because we've never been in that.
Just imagine the state of a mind.
Yeah.
When you're tied to a post and you have
You know what I feel?
shooters in
It
front
might
of
actually be, a relief to him more than anything else because.
you. It could be, but let me finish the story.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
So,
sorry. I
He was
apologize.
at the door of death. At the doors of death, he was staring down. He was not staring down. He was blindfolded. But he knew there was a
He
shooting
was
gallery.
anticipating a bullet hitting him.
He was anticipating the end of his life now. At the last minute, they, in Wikipedia and in other sources, it says that the Tsar or someone sent a message exactly at that point of time that he should not be killed. And that's when they released him.
Oh, was this that Miss Universe kind of like a debacle where, oh, sorry, man, we made a big mistake. I'm so sorry. The new Miss Universe is not Miss Argentina, but it is someone else.
Venezuela? Or
Venezuela, yeah.
Wow, what a
Miss
reference.
Venezuela.
What a reference. So what I heard, I heard two different versions. One was at the exact end moment, the Tsar sent a message saying, don't kill him for whatever reason, and they untied him. The other version I heard was they tied him, they kept him waiting.
Oh, sweet Lord.
They kept him waiting.
Why is this getting darker and darker? We are supposed to glorify Fyodor Dostoevsky.
This is getting darker and darker and darker, almost going to Chinese torture. But we're not going there yet.
Not there yet.
That's the darkest.
Yeah.
But they kept him waiting for a while. Then they untied him, took him back to his cell.
And said, like, oh, we don't have a date yet.
No, that's it. They just took him back to his cell and left him. This man, imagine his state of mind.
Yeah.
For a while, I can imagine he would have been the most confused guy ever to have existed in history or whatever.
Yeah.
But that kind of broke him, actually. They say that it broke him. And I think he himself said it, I don't remember. But that it kind of changed his outlook from that point of view.
Yeah, so I read a book of his called Notes from the Underground. I don't know if it's like a journal.
I've not.
Some of the things he says is mostly about how being indifferent to, I don't know the word, dude. What is it? Plight. What is a bigger word to plight?
You can say plight.
Yeah. So having indifference to plight is the way to go about, So, and even if you look at it in a different way, even the military training, the army training is to abuse your body so much through physical training that, at the time of action, right, your body is in a position to take any kind of, demand.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not new.
It's not new to it. So it's already immune to it. So it doesn't kind of fall out of place when suddenly, like, say there's a sprain in the hand or like you got like a shoulder dislocation or something. It still keeps you moving. It knows how to function with those disability, right? So even Dostoevsky, most of his things, he kind of goes around that note of his indifference to plight, which he reached to after a point where he's like, nothing can hurt me now, like nothing can physically torture me or put me under any kind of misery. Right. Is what he kind of prophesizes in those journals, which were basically notes to himself. And those are like very philosophical. If you have that, inclination of philosophy about the general things about life, you kind of see that, that's the state which is where you're functioning at a very high level once you reach there.
And in Crime and Punishment, there comes a point in the story where two characters are conversing with each other, and one of them is lamenting as to how come people don't feel the need to help each other or help someone else. How come people don't want to improve their situation, something
Right.
like that. And
Right.
the other character says, but don't you know, some people, they relish it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You may think that whoever is miserable, all of them want to get out of that miserable situation and make things better for themselves.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
They want to get back to it.
our wretched human nature
Wow. Dude. This
again
is-
comes into play, where
those spoken English classes
Some
you've been
people-
sent to. This is taking a toll on me now.
some people
Wretched.
relish being miserable.
Yeah.
Some people secretly take pleasure from it, and they don't want that situation to change because now they've been miserable for so long that it starts to feel comfortable.
Second nature.
Yeah, you start to see your comfort zone in that.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get out of it because that would be unfamiliar, uncharted territory again
Yeah.
for you. And again, you have to learn, again, you have to
Right.
go through. Would you be hurt? Who knows? You know,
Right. Right.
all that stuff. So that when I read, I was like, just exactly when I read like Stanley Milgram experiment
Yeah.
and the Stanford experiments, it's just that disgust.
Yeah.
And
it
not
guts you, right?
It guts you. And
because it's so real.
and because it's not just, it's someone else who has those characteristics.
Yeah.
It is because the fact that we all
Yeah.
have
In
this.
general.
We all have this in us.
Yeah. Yeah. Another way of putting it is, it's a very mellow way again, but this is something that I've always observed in my work, in my workplace or with myself. The fact that you don't start acting till there is fire under your ass
Yeah.
is also, in a way, I know we are kind of
Laton ke bhoot.
laton ke bhoot, right?
Right.
So I know I'm kind of like, looking it under a microscope, but broadly, if you look at it, we all perform in adversity.
True.
We are all amazing performers in adversity. But the problem is, some people learn how they perform and then start performing like that in general.
Yes.
And the majority of the people, once they have gone past that particular obstacle, they go back to normal, and then they're not worried about, they don't kind of carry that performance or that whole process of performance forward in their life on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
What they do is they again wait for that day where they're about to step into adversity, or they're already in adversity.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, you know what, I have to like work really hard and get everything in place. So I have to like bring my A game. Why are you never in your A game always? That's my point, right?
Yeah.
Like, why are we not in A game always? Because the A game is supposed to be the best case scenario for you. And we somehow don't want to be there all the time.
Yeah. The only response I have for that is,
Yeah.
but now, guys, if you've been listening this long, we've gone through the Stanley Milgram experiment. We've gone through Stanford prison experiment. We've gone through the Crime and Punishment, Fyodor Dostoevsky example. But let's go back to that Colosseum scene. Let's go back to that accident.
Where it all started.
The accident scene, where we talked about how people have behaved in those situations. I feel, my theory is that people in the Colosseum were cheering with bloodlust because they achieved, or not achieved is a wrong word, but because they
Got.
detached.
Just use simple words.
They
got.
got detached. They detached themselves from the reality of the scene. Yes, there was a human being who was being torn to shreds right in front of them, blood flying everywhere. But if you detach yourself from it and look at it just as a spectacle, think about watching a Tarantino movie or watching any movie with gore and violence in it. How many of us enjoy those movies? Are we wrong to enjoy those movies? Or are we right because we understand the distinction between reality and fiction? We understand that in reality, that woman is not really being killed.
Yeah.
So she's acting. She's
Right.
earning her livelihood.
Right.
So I can laugh at her death.
Right.
So basically, we can process things like this because we understand that it is fictional. We understand it's not real. It's not a documentary that we're watching.
Yeah.
So that kind of detachment is giving you some leverage or leeway to indulge in more of your animalistic instincts. And that bloodlust, that attitude is what is being seen similarly in a lower scale, of course, but in social media. Is it really such a lower scale? Because we have very tangible death threats going around. It's, for me, it seems ridiculous that you would threaten someone with death on a social media platform. I don't know why, but still, and I want to connect this to the
Why are we speaking about death threats now, dude? Why are you scaring me? We are on that platform.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
Like,
oh yeah. I forgot. I wanted to connect this to sport. Okay. The reason, and this, I again don't know how true this is, but this is what I heard. Okay. I heard the reason sport was put into place was because after the wars ended, whoever they is, they felt that men needed a more peaceful avenue to vent out their inborn aggression, their aggressive traits, their combative traits, all the things that men have had for history. If we bring in sport, maybe that gives them an avenue to vent it out, and then maybe they won't be so violent because there's a vent.
Right.
That need is being fulfilled.
Yeah.
Similarly, if we look at a social media platform as a vent, where it is just us venting on it all the time, we don't mean anything, nothing is seriously meant, and it just becomes a dialogue or like a rap battle. Rap battles, for example, are vicious. The kinds of things rappers spit at each other. It's
basically a poetic form of roasting each other, right?
Poetic form of roasting each other.
Like musical form of roasting each other.
That could involve verses that could involve verses like how in detail I'm going to murder your mom.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Right.
But even then, everyone knows that it is just a game of one-upsmanship. It is an ego challenge. How much are you able to own the other guy? How much are you able to embarrass the other person?
Yeah.
And it ends there. None of that is taken seriously. None of those threats are really taken seriously.
Right.
If we considered social media as the same, and if we all agreed that we are going to treat this with some amount of detachment, whatever goes on here is in the virtual world, it doesn't have much bearing on the real world, then I feel like we can avoid so many of these issues and we can be actually free.
So you're basically talking about a mass behavioral change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's like Dr. Evil thinking about.
In a way, yeah, it is.
Right.
Anyone who wants to change a lot of people.
Yeah. Like,
it is very
it's
suspicious.
always Dr.
Yeah.
Evil.
Yeah.
It starts with doctor or a scientist because only these guys have enough time to think about this nonsense. But no, I get your point, Bogus. On a very serious note, kidding aside, jokes apart,
right?
Enough of fun. We need to figure out a way of how do we create accountability, right?
Yeah.
And I get your point that when you're speaking on a platform like social media or the internet, right, you should understand as a person that, again, I go back to my whole apprehension towards electronic communication.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, you got to understand how people are, from where are they trying to come at you, right? And you need to cut that flack. You can't take it from you have to be open, basically, right? And have a conversation and then leave the conversation to as it is. Because in real life also, how many conversations which started off with "Tu bahara dekh le tu" actually ended up in a fight.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You come out of the bar, then bol. Like, okay, we just had like a 2-hour conversation inside where you seem to have a huge problem with me. Now that I'm outside, now you're asking me my point again. Like, you want to go through that whole 2-hour conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, right?
That's what it is.
The only reason is there is a possible threat. There's a possible damage that can be caused for you, to you, or by you, right? And in social media, you're cocooned by that effect. Like, you're not bothered about oh, if I say this, the other person might actually start bleeding from my nose.
Exactly.
Or, somebody, like 10 guys might jump at me.
It would be a lot different if that was the case.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, and I agree to the point that all these people who use heavy words are basically guys who got those words.
Yeah.
They were told that at some point or the other, just for the fact that how that person might have been.
Yeah.
Right? Too opinionated, too nosy into other people's life or whatever might be. I'm not judging him or that person. But I'm saying we give away whatever we get.
Yeah.
That's a problem that we have.
And we both know sitting here that two of us as strangers could get really abusive on social media.
Yeah.
But if we were to come across each other in real life, there's no way in hell we're having the same conversation.
No chance.
Real
not
life
the same words,
exactly.
not the same tone.
Not even the same escalation.
It would take its own sweet time in escalating or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I get the point. But how do we do it at a mass level? It's a very tricky thing. I think that's where I kind of going to steal your words.
Yeah.
Where rules come into picture.
Yeah.
Right? So, what rules? That's a big question. Who will put these rules is another question.
Yeah.
And how will these rules function? Right? What if somebody goes beyond these rules? What is the repercussion?
Right.
Is that a decent repercussion for somebody to start behaving responsibly or take these things seriously? Right? Because cyberbullying is a huge thing right now.
Yeah.
And to all those people who've been, on the other side where they were being bullied, I only feel that you got to be really reassured that nothing will come to you.
Yeah. And the way I see it is that overall, internet-wise, globally, we are the same. If you look at it on the internet level.
Yeah.
But we are still individual countries.
Right.
And we are now moving away back from globalism to our individual identities.
True that.
And so the purview of what the social media etiquette is going to be for a particular country, that can be decided by the policies in that country. And how do we get a change to those policies? It basically requires people mobilizing and putting pressure or surfacing this issue to the right people and again with some kind of a blueprint in place, saying that this we want to treat as a starting spot, wherein whatever speech is made online, if it's not followed up by a real life event, it has to be considered a virtual thing. It has to be considered harmless if it is not followed up. But if it is followed up, then this punishment has to be severe.
The execution part of it, I don't know, but in theory, that makes sense, and I think it's already being implemented at some level. There are cyber crime cells which are kind of keeping a tab on it, but it has to be more concrete.
Exactly, because
it has to be more out there, where people have an absolute understanding of this, which is where I feel education becomes a very important tool for any country or government.
Yeah, and because of a lack of proper guideline, right?
Yeah.
Even these cybercrime cells, the way they respond, it's not uniform.
Very sporadic.
It's very sporadic. It takes a popular celebrity on that platform to say something and then they act. If regular people say it, they don't act.
Right.
It's really, it doesn't follow.
There is a hierarchy
pattern,
unfortunately, which is followed.
Yeah.
And apart from that, what else can we do?
I think it's just to, first of all, right now, at the stage we are in, it is to first of all agree, accept, acknowledge that this is a new thing that we're dealing with at a scale unprecedented. These are new waters we are charting.
Yeah.
We got to sit together and discuss on or have those conversations of how do we think this should be handled? What should be the etiquette? How should we process and I'm going to use a word that you used, which is virtual fight club. If you look at it as a virtual fight club and that's it, nothing more, just an indulgence for you to vent out your frustrations, and the result of that, as a pro, I see a situation where a 5-year-old can have an argument about something with a 75-year-old or an 80-year-old.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm very fascinated as to what that conversation would be like. Someone who is
millennials versus the 90s kid.
No, someone who's entering into life and someone who is on the verge of leaving.
Right.
What would they talk about?
Right.
And what would they argue about?
Yeah.
I want a situation where they can freely argue, where none of them has to worry about their age, the so-called societal respect they deserve.
Yeah,
But
you
just-
remove hierarchy there, right?
Just clash your ideas.
Correct.
Let's just have a clash of ideas, see what comes out, and everything should be fair play, like a rap battle.
Right. So why I said the virtual fight club was because we are talking about a platform which is a virtual platform, right? Which is a virtual ecosystem.
Yeah.
It is very difficult to create a sports ecosystem in that scenario, right? So you somehow have to create a virtual ecosystem where there are certain rules. You play by some rules of that ecosystem, which are not designed by you, which are not necessarily suiting you, except for the fact that you have absolutely 100% right of whatever you feel like.
Yeah.
And however you want to put it, you can put it out there.
And no one should be coming around linking it to your employer,
Yeah.
trying to get you fired.
In every way. Like it should not be, it's not a platform to judge you.
Exactly.
You know, as simple, I can't speak those polished words like yours, but it's a simple platform where you're not being judged. That's the assurance that you have, right? But at the same time, your accountability is you don't take it out of that ecosystem. When I say you don't take it out, you don't take that approach or that kind of a mentality or that viciousness that you're okay to do that. That shouldn't go out of that ecosystem. You have to let it out. You need to leave your whole baggage within that ecosystem so that, it gets accumulated in one place.
You know what happens in Vegas kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why do people go to Vegas? Because they're so tired of their daily life that they need not just Vegas. That is basically a concept
the saying "what happens in Vegas
stays in Vegas."
So
exactly.
It's like whatever happens here.
Yeah, you're not being judged. You're not being.
Don't let it bleed it out.
Yeah, for middle class people out there, which is the majority, what happens in Goa stays in Goa. That's it. Nobody cares what you did in Goa. If you're a little upper middle class and probably coming from Gujarat, what happens in Bangkok stays in Bangkok. That's it. How difficult is it to understand? I'm not even as complicated as Bogus speaks. Simple English.
Yeah. And if sports really were meant to serve as a vent for physical aggression, then what about our mental aggression? We need a vent for that as well. Why don't we use social media for that?
No, there's a science to it. Basically, if you're physically drained out, technically you're mentally also drained out. There is like boxing, for example, right?
Okay.
People who go to the gyms and like train, people who are stressed, they have this tendency of going for a swim or going to a gym and like training hard.
Right.
That's actually a way to, your body gets physically drained out.
Right.
And through that, you don't have any more energy to like stimulate your mind. So you kind of come out having a more clear thought. Even sports is that, by the way. Like, for example, the days where we used to play TT all night, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of that 3-4 hours of playing TT, we basically have no more strength to like think or ponder or worry or crib about anything. You're basically sitting there hoping that you get back your breath and you kind of become normal, right?
Yeah.
And once you become normal, you're basically a clean slate. So that's the science behind why I can see the sense in why sports was used, and it might not just be for the physical training or the ventilation, but it's also like a lot of mental ventilation.
So, first of all, I'm not sure that ventilation is a word, but it doesn't matter because I understood exactly what you meant.
Yeah.
I think as an example for physical training, whoever are the most abusive people, right? Online.
Yeah.
You get them in front of a keyboard that's as big as this room.
Right.
Across the wall.
Right.
They have to hammer every key with a hammer.
Right. Right.
And if they want to type out something,
Yeah.
they need to, and this hammer has to weigh around like 45 kilos or something.
Yeah. It's super heavy.
Heavy hammer, and they have to type it out.
You actually have places like that. Do you know there's the places where you're given stuff to like wreck?
I know. Yeah.
Where you can
I
just
love that
go.
concept.
Yeah. Like you just go, you're locked up in a room, you're given a hammer or whatever, you just fucking smash everything in that room.
Yeah, what Brute is referring to here is, I forgot the name of the concept, but you get to go into a room, there's used furniture there, you have a weapon or something in your hand, like a baseball bat or whatever, and you just go about freely whacking the shit out of everything.
Yeah, for how, I think like for
an hour or something, and then you come out fully relaxed.
Exactly.
Basically. And that's a great concept. I think a lot of us... it's a great startup idea for India, actually.
Yeah, and there is a medical solution for this also. Promote weed. Like spread weed, bro. Snoop Dogg, man. Seen Snoop Dogg talk. You can't make out whether he's angry or frustrated. He just talks.
But I think that brings us to a conclusion to our discussion today.
Yeah, open conclusion. I'll say.
It is an open conclusion. I
Yeah.
think we'll come back to it when we get more ideas on rules of engagement online and what more can we add to it.
Yeah.
So
and how we can make this a better place.
Yeah,
That's the
and
bottom line.
that's about it. So look forward to that, guys. Subscribe, follow our podcast on all leading platforms, and you might just catch a follow up to this. Awesome.
So ThyGap, guys, please subscribe.
And share.
And share. And moving on from the dark topic, bogus, let's move on to our forte. Right?
What's that?
That's the parcel section.
Audience favorite.
The parcel section with an enormous demand for this to be the introduction more than the end. But you know how these gimmicks work. You gotta wait till the end to get the best.
Yeah, that's
right?
how the
Hard
game
work
goes.
pays.
Yep.
So the parcel section, let's make it quick this time.
Right.
Go.
Going on your cube route, I'm here to tell you that you should go first and probably I should follow you next.
Fantastic. That's what I was waiting for. And I almost forgot how long you take for telling your suggestion. So my parcel section for the Elite episode 12 is a very famous movie and also unnoticed, but it was made by a very famous director. I think a lot of movie geeks would know this director.
What's the name?
It's the name of the movie is Shatranj ki Khiladi.
And the director?
Satyajit Ray.
The name rings a bell.
Yeah, probably one of the first guys from India to actually get an Oscar.
Yeah.
And also, he's widely acclaimed. And he's a favorite of guess who? Steven Spielberg. Satyajit Ray is actually an inspiration to Steven Spielberg. Like, little trivia. He speaks very high.
You mean?
Spielberg, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So, he speaks very highly about Satyajit Ray. And so, the movie is placed in the time where Britishes kind of encroaching the Indian land.
Right.
And it is placed in a location called Awadh, which Awadh kingdom is contemporary Uttar Pradesh and that part.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting story, super comic in its own way. I mean, it's not directly comic, but it's about these two landlords,
Right.
Mir and Mirza, who are the two landlords, who are addicted to chess. So Shatranj ke Khiladi, Shatranj means chess. Right? So they're addicted to chess so badly that they don't take care of their affairs of their kingdom. They don't participate in that. Their whole personal life is a mess. It's going, spiraling downwards aggressively. And, they're not giving any attention to the imminent threat that Britishers are coming. They're going to take over, and they don't give a shit about all this.
Right.
All they care about from morning till day, the moment they wake up till they sleep, is how to play chess, and they keep playing chess between both of them.
Right.
To a point that, the Britishers actually come and take over their kingdom, and they still don't stop playing chess.
Okay.
Or I might be putting it wrong, but that's a suspense I'm going to draw, it's a bluff.
So these are what we call ancient gamers.
Yeah, ancient gamers, where the fathers would come and break the TVs right now, but back in the day, the fathers were not that powerful.
Yeah.
So the wives would actually come and break the boards. But it's a very, very well done movie, obviously, because Satyajit Ray is a perfectionist in himself as a director.
Right.
He wrote the dialogues, in fact, for the movie.
Okay.
And the movie is as expected. It has a very low pace. It's not as fast as you want it to be.
Right.
But it's so encapsulating their acting. Right, all the actors, and it's a very strong cast, by the way. The cast is Sanjeev Kumar, Syed Jaffrey, Shabana Azmi, Farida Jalal, Tom Alter, who's the Indian Britisher for all the movies up till late 90s. Right. So it's a very strong cast. Everybody, I think, comes from a theater background, without an exception. And so the acting is super high class, and a lot of people don't know this, or I don't know how many people know this, but Sanjeev Kumar is a brilliant comic actor.
Oh.
He's unfortunately overshadowed by his role in Sholay, where he's the Thakur with no hands.
Yeah.
But he's a very, very, very comical actor. He has brilliant comic timing. His expressions are top notch. So is Syed Jaffrey. Syed Jaffrey, another veteran in the
Yes.
Bollywood industry.
Yes.
So it's crazy movie. Shatranj ke Khiladi, guys. That's the name of the suggestion that I have.
What I found interesting from your description of the movie as well was how they used the concept of two people addicted to chess
Yeah.
as a commentary on the dark aspects of society.
Yeah.
As in when in the movie when the metaphorical Rome was burning,
Yeah.
our heroes here
Right.
were all too focused on only one thing and one thing only.
Correct. And if you watch the movie from an angle of learning something, right? I'm pretty sure you can still relate it to how self-absorbed we are.
Yeah.
Not looking at the greater good as closely as we should.
Yeah.
Even though if it is knocking our doors, right? We have a tendency of not really paying it a lot of attention.
Right.
So it's like I said, it's a very well-made movie.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of the technical aspect, the acting aspect, but the storytelling is brilliant. Like, just watch it, guys. Shatranj ke Khiladi.
Great recommendation, Brute.
Oh, thank you, Bogus.
Yeah, and coincidentally, it turns out that both of us, without planning it in advance, have Indian movies this time.
Oh my God,
In
the
our Parcel
synchronicity that we always end up with.
Look at
Bogus.
that. Look at that.
Wow. I almost want to cry.
Please don't.
Okay.
It's
That's
a
all it
comedy.
took.
It's a comedy podcast.
Yeah. After all that you spoke, you realize now that it's a comedy podcast?
Yeah.
Great.
Thin line between comedy and tragedy. Anyways, the movie I want to talk about this time in my Parcel section is a movie made in 2007 by an ad man called Navdeep Singh.
Uh-huh.
It's called Manorama 6 Feet Under. And this movie is nothing really too, mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
But just the way they narrated the story, the way the actors played the part, and the way the set and setting, right?
Right.
This movie is set in a small, sleepy town in Rajasthan.
Yeah.
And Rajasthan, desert country,
Right.
So in the town, their needs are very basic. Electricity,
Right.
seamless.
Our luxuries are their needs.
Yeah,
basically.
continuous electricity,
Yeah.
water. Water
Right.
is the biggest concern.
Right.
You could be taking a shower and the water could run out in the middle.
Uh-huh.
So in this town, you have Satyavir Singh Randhawa. This is the name of the character that Abhay Deol plays. And
Okay.
Abhay Deol is the leading man
Right.
in this movie. He's a writer.
Huh.
And he's a failed writer.
Got it.
He's
us,
published
basically.
He's published like a couple of books that went nowhere. And currently when the movie starts, he's under extreme pressure because there's some bribery charge going on against him at his workplace.
Mm-hmm.
He could be suspended.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has a beautiful, loving wife at home
Mm-hmm.
and a boy.
Uh-huh.
And the wife is played by Gulpanag.
Okay.
Okay.
Another underrated actress.
Underrated.
Yeah.
Very good actress.
Yeah.
So Abhay Deol and Gulpanag are this married couple. They are very simple middle class issues with where his career is going, what her dreams were, what she had to sacrifice.
Right.
She keeps letting him know again and again, of course.
Yeah. She's a wife.
Yeah.
That's what wives do.
Yeah. And nosy neighbors. So Abhay Deol is at the end of his disillusionment, because he's middle-aged, he had dreams and he can see all those dreams being shattered. And their needs are so simple that he even hallucinates about a supermodel wearing ghagra choli on the roads, on the Rajasthan roads. All she's doing is she's having a pot of water.
Yeah, and he's
That's his
focused on
fantasy.
the water.
That's it. That's his fantasy.
Yeah.
That she'll pour the water and give him to drink.
Yeah.
So the story starts off when one weird night, Abhay Deol's character has a visitor.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Sarika. Sarika is Kamal Hassan's wife. So she plays a role
First
in
wife.
this.
Kamal Hassan's first wife. Shruti Hassan's mother, guys.
Yeah. So she plays this character. She introduces herself to Abhay Deol. Says, I'm the chief minister's wife. Okay. And the chief minister is a very powerful guy.
Yeah.
Of course, because it's a town, the pecking order is even more clear.
Right.
There is power structure you don't fuck with.
Right.
Right. So she says, I'm the chief minister's wife. I heard you're a detective.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's having an affair.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to go to the bungalow.
Right.
And I want you to click a few pictures. I want you to catch him in the act.
Basically get proof.
Get proof. Get the pictures back to me.
Yeah.
Here's payment. And there's more coming after you deliver.
Right.
So Abhay Deol is like, okay, simple and sweet. Everything else is going to shit. There's something else at least I can do.
Right.
So he embarks on this journey. He goes to the CM's house. He sees the chief minister argue with a girl. And he sees the chief minister sending her away in anger. Asking her to get out.
Right.
He takes all these pictures and he returns them to Sarika.
Right.
And he thought, okay, job done. And he is ready to move on with his life. Now, what you need to know is there's another character here. The chief inspector in the town is Abhay Deol's brother-in-law.
Okay.
Gulpanag's younger brother is the chief inspector of the town. And this character, Bridge, is played by none other than Vinay Pathak.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Extreme shades of grey.
Right.
Says two things while saying one thing.
Yeah.
What a character, I swear. But basically, Abhay Deol has a habit of having these drink sessions with his Sala.
Right.
Every evening. At some kotha or some abandoned old fort or something like that.
Right.
So this is how his life goes on.
Yeah.
Once that whole Sarika episode happens, he's returning home and she suddenly runs in front of his bike late in the night. And she says, I think my life is in danger.
Okay.
And I need you to, if anything happens to me, just remember, my name is Manorama and I'm 32 years old. And that's all she says.
Yeah.
And she runs away. And Abhay Deol is like, he's fazed by it. He's like, what just happened?
Right.
He just goes back home. Next day morning, he reads in the paper. She turns up dead.
Oh, sweet.
And that really catches him off guard. And he starts, his writer instinct, his detective instinct starts kicking in. He wants to know more.
Right.
But then, in a barber shop when he's getting a haircut, he comes to know through the news, he sees the actual CM's wife, who's an old lady on a wheelchair. By the CM.
Right.
Beside the CM when he's giving a speech. And then he's like, if she is the wife, then who was this lady?
But it's an interesting thing. At what point were you planning to stop the description of the movie? Because you're basically narrating the script to me as if I'm an actor.
I'm not.
You're pitching the script.
I'm not even spoiling anything.
Okay.
This is the context. From here, his life goes to absolute shit.
Okay.
Because he doesn't know who he can trust. He doesn't know who he can't trust. And he's going up against, he doesn't understand that he just put his foot into something which is very dark and very murky and goes all the way to the top. And he's a helpless writer.
Okay.
And how he gets into that trouble, how he gets himself out of that trouble in this whole beautiful setting of Rajasthan in the town is Manorama 6 Feet Under. And I really I can't stress this enough. If anyone has missed watching this movie because it didn't really get mainstream, but the acting, there are no weaklings in the acting at all.
Right.
Abhay Deol.
All strong actors. Gulpanag. Vinay Pathak. Who played the CM?
The CM was Kulbhushan Karbhanda.
Oh, sweet.
The late.
Yeah.
And Raima Sen.
Sarika herself. Very beautiful, very good actress.
And even a very young Nawazuddin
Siddiqui.
Who plays a gangster in this movie before he was Nawazuddin Siddiqui.
Right.
So it's a hidden gem. And I would really recommend everyone to check it out. It's actually on Amazon Prime. So Prime members can watch it on free or elsewhere, up to you. But I would recommend that you check this out, bro.
Great. This is a fantastic recommendation. Only the description of it was boring as always. You have not disappointed in the whole.
Thank you.
Great. So that's the end of our parcel section, guys. And that brings us to the end of our episode also. So keep tuning in on every Thursday to ThyGap Podcast. Subscribe.
And share. Hey, thanks for listening. You can follow this podcast on Spotify to get notified of new episodes every Thursday. We're also on Apple Podcasts for those of you who have partaken in the forbidden fruit. If you liked what you heard, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Say anything like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, A rating and a comment really helps us out. It's free, and I'm told that's a great price. But enough about us, huh? Tell us about yourself. Leave us a comment. Our Twitter is @ThyGap, and we are _ThyGap on Instagram.